Before we get into today's show, let me tell you about the latest deal from Mike Lindell, MyPillow. Once again, the big box stores have canceled their orders simply because they don't agree with Mike Lindell's politics. They don't like it because he supports President Trump. Well, he's going to pass that savings on to you. No more middleman. And boy, does he have some great deals on the Giza Dream sheets and the Percal bed sheets. Listen to this. Giza Dream queen size, normally $139.98. Your wholesale price, $69.99 when you use promo code Joey. King size, only $79.99. The Percal queen size, normally $89.98. Your wholesale price, $29.98 when you use promo code Joey. Just call 1-800-893-4059 or go to MyPillow.com. Always use promo code Joey. Free shipping options available. This allotment's not going to last very long. When they're gone, they're gone. MyPillow.com, promo code Joey. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition Studios. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. A lot of breaking news today. First and foremost, we now know why Joe Biden failed so miserably at the 2024 presidential debate. Hunter Biden is blaming Ambien on his dad's disastrous debate performance, which just further fuels new questions about transparency and Joe Biden's fitness for office. Meanwhile, and this will give you a giggle for today, Democrats say they will try to dissect themselves with an autopsy of what happened in 2024. They just can't get past this, can they? Democrat strategist James Carville says they're riddled with disease. It's official. The Department of Justice confirmed yesterday that it has received Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard's criminal referral related to her bombshell claims that Obama-era officials, quote, manufactured and politicized intelligence to create the narrative that Russia was attempting to influence the 2016 presidential election. Buckle up. This one is going to get interesting. And Representative Anna Paulina Luna has referred Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell to the Department of Justice for potential criminal prosecution, alleging that he lied under oath in two separate instances. South Carolina GOP Chairman Drew McKissick joins us to talk about the first 6 months of Trump 2.0 and how he is enforcing our immigration laws to protect American citizens. A lot to cover today. Glad to have you along for the ride. Let's jump right in.
I told you we'd be back.
And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free.
It's Joey Hudson.
I wanted to name it the Joey Hudson bill, but you know they don't allow you to put names on bills. But I wanted to call it the Joey Hudson bill because I know that one's been near and dear to you for a number of years.
That's how it's done. Let your voice be heard.
And the truth shall set you free.
Here's Joey Hudson.
Hunter Biden continues to just keep on giving. He has ignited fresh controversy after blaming his dad's disastrous 2024 debate performance on the prescription sleep aid Ambien. A revelation that, of course, raises more questions than it answers about what really happened behind the scenes at the White House. In a new interview released yesterday with YouTuber Andrew Callahan, Hunter Biden admitted that then-President Joe Biden, 81 at the time, was given Ambien ahead of his infamous June 2024 debate against Donald Trump, a debate widely viewed as the death knell for Joe Biden's re-election bid. Here's Hunter.
He's 81 years old. He's tired as shit. They give him Ambien to be able to sleep. He gets up on the stage, and he looks like he's a deer in the headlights. And it feeds into every story that anybody wants to tell. And Jake Tapper with literally how many anonymous sources. If this was a conspiracy, Andrew, you know this, somehow the entirety of a White House in which you literally living on top of each other has kept their mouth shut.
Yep, and that's part of the problem. They have kept their mouth shut. The former first son did not clarify when or how his dad was given the drug. But what's especially troubling is this. Ambien was never disclosed in Biden's official medical records or his 2024 physical, according to the New York Post. A report designed specifically to reassure the public that the aging president was healthy and mentally sharp. The FDA warns that patients over 70 face heightened risk from the drug due to slower metabolism and increased side effects like confusion, drowsiness, and impaired coordination. And watching Joe Biden during that debate, it's hard not to connect the dots. And let me tell you this, too. As someone who once has taken Ambien, it has an amazing effect on you that you cannot describe. You know, there's been a lot of talk about Ambien for years as a legal defense. There have been cases to where spouses have murdered their husband or wife, and they claimed that they took an Ambien and didn't know. And again, as someone who took it at one point, you can take an Ambien and be completely out of it. Although you can try to talk. It's like you're sitting there carrying on a conversation. You just don't know what you're saying. For millions of Americans, that debate performance was the moment they realized that something was deeply wrong. Now, you and I knew it ahead of time. We already knew that Joe Biden shouldn't be in office. But for many who weren't paying close attention, they didn't quite get to that point. But Biden's confused expression, his frozen posture, and the infamous declaration that he had finally beat Medicare sparked panic inside the Democrat Party and an open revolt among party elites who just tossed him out. Just 3 weeks later, Joe Biden dropped out of the race under immense pressure, clearing the path for Kamala Harris to take the nomination and eventually lose to Donald Trump. But according to Hunter, the family was completely blindsided. He claimed Democrats threatened to tear the party apart if Biden didn't step aside, saying that they said, "We're going to blow up the party if you don't drop out. We're going to protest this all the way to the convention." Now, this is quite the admission. And not just about the internal chaos among the Democrats, but about how much the public wasn't told. Even now, there's no official record, according to the New York Post, of Ambien use in Biden's health disclosures. The president's then physician, Dr. Kevin O'Connor, made no mention of it in his February 2024 memo listing Biden's 6 medications. That omission is very glaring and concerning if, in fact, Joe Biden really was taking Ambien. And to make matters worse, Dr. O'Connor pleaded the fifth, remember, before Congress when asked about Biden's cognitive condition and his handling of presidential health disclosures. This is the same physician who in May told the country that Biden was in, quote, excellent shape just weeks before the 81-year-old was diagnosed with stage 4 prostate cancer that had spread to his bones. Now, how does that happen under the watch of a White House doctor? Any guesses? Hunter downplayed the internal Democrat backlash that eventually forced his father out, brushing it off kind of as a few nobodies, aside from former Speaker Nancy Pelosi, whom he faulted for not giving a full support, a full endorsement. Still, he admitted that once Biden's health and debate issues went public, the pressure from the left was relentless. He said it gets over the hump. He does the Stephanopoulos interview, and they say not enough. Then they want a press conference. He gives them that too, Hunter said. But, of course, we all know now those efforts fell flat. In the now infamous July 12th press conference, Joe Biden appeared confused again, mistaking Ukraine's president for Mr. Putin, a slip that did little to quiet fears about his mental fitness. Look, the fact is, Joe Biden was not capable of being president then, and certainly wasn't capable of being president for another 4 years. They're just looking for someone to blame. And look, Ambien's a good excuse, I guess. There was another blow, though. When Joe Biden tested positive for COVID just days later, again, going back to 2024, looking visibly weak, frail in photos, according to Hunter, that was the final nail. Hunter said he woke up in the morning with a severe case of COVID, and the pictures of him getting on and off the plane were just devastating, and then the vultures descended. That's a quote. The vultures descended. Yet even now, Hunter portrays his father's withdrawal as heroic, saying, Joe Biden did the most selfless thing that I know of any politician in the history of this country. He stepped aside to save the party. But yet, he didn't really save the party. That's not how many Americans, and certainly you and I, we don't see it that way, do we? From the beginning, the Biden presidency was propped up by a protected press, by silent enablers within the White House, and a medical team that appears to have bent the truth. Now, we'll see. I'm sure this is going to fuel more investigations. Now, with these revelations that a powerful sleep aid like Ambien may have played a role in the national debate, and that it was never disclosed, the integrity of this entire administration and his health care comes under renewed scrutiny, right? The media called questions about Biden's health right-wing conspiracy, Now we know even his own son admits something was seriously off. So what haven't we been told? What other medications could Joe Biden have potentially been taking? And again, if he had taken an Ambien prior to the debate, I'm surprised he was even able to stand there and finish the debate. But again, what have we not been told? What else are they hiding? Because the public has a right to know whether decisions in the most powerful office on earth were being made or even understood by the person elected to the job. Again, let's go back to the auto pen. Did he really understand what he was giving permission to be signed? Or did his aggressive, woke leftist chief of staff and other high-ranking staff, were they taking advantage of him? Were they possibly helping their friends out and in exchange for possibly money? I don't know. But certainly future political chips to be called in at a later date in order to be able to come through with these pardons. There's a whole lot that just doesn't smell good about this. I mean, we're long past the point of pretending this is about partisanship. It's about accountability. It's about honesty and the basic expectation that our leaders are fit to serve, and when they're not, that they tell that they admit to that, and they go away. And that their doctors tell us too. It didn't happen with Joe Biden. And the more we learn about what was really going on behind the scenes, the clearer it becomes Americans were sold a false bill of goods on Joe Biden. Joey Hudson here. America is facing a health crisis, and the answer isn't more meds. I lost over 30 pounds on the PhD weight loss plan without Ozempic or any weight loss shots. Don't settle for a lifetime of medication. GLP-1 injections like Ozempic help some people lose weight, but they come with side effects, high cost, and most gain it back when they stop. At PhD Weight Loss, we reveal Big Pharma's big secret. Your body already makes GLP-1, the appetite-fighting hormone. Our program helps your body make it naturally so you'll drop the pounds faster. With the PhD method, no side effects, no long-term risk, no rebound weight gain, just natural, lasting results, all without hunger or cravings. Right now, get a free body scan and personalized metabolic assessment. Discover your body's true potential without a shot. It's free and gives you the keys to your personalized plan. Do like I did and don't trade your health for a quick fix. Call now at 864-644-1900. That's 864-644-1900 or visit myphdweightloss.com, myphdweightloss.com. So here we are, a story that, if we're all honest with one another, should be front page news across the country, but most media outlets are barely touching it right now. We talked about it yesterday. We learned more. The Department of Justice has confirmed that it has received a criminal referral from Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard. She's alleging that Obama-era officials, including potentially the former president himself, politicized and manipulated intelligence in the closing weeks of the Obama administration to push the now debunked Trump-Russia collusion narrative. So let's be clear here. This is a serious accusation. Now, the Democrats are saying, this is all partisan. The Democrats just won't let this go. There's nothing to this. This happened so long ago, almost a decade ago. Well, according to the documents Gabbard just released, this wasn't a handful of bureaucrats freelancing. It wasn't even some political operatives who had just gotten out of hand. She's pointing the finger directly at President Obama and his national security team, accusing them of intentionally laying the foundation for the years-long investigation that dogged President Trump from day one. And she's not speculating either. These are unclassified documents, and she's turning them over to the Department of Justice with a call for full criminal investigation and prosecution. Gabbard said, and very plainly, no matter how powerful, every person involved in this conspiracy must be investigated and prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. The integrity of our democratic republic depends on it. That's a bold statement, but the details that she has uncovered seem to back it up at the same time. What she and her team say that they've uncovered is over 100 documents showing how the Obama administration continued to pull the strings even after the 2016 election was over. after Donald Trump had soundly defeated Hillary Clinton. The goal? Undermine the incoming Trump administration, delegitimize his presidency, and keep the D.C. establishment firmly in control of the Democrats. This is scary. And you know what? It's not surprising. I can see Barack Obama doing this. I can see he and his the upper echelon of the Biden administration, those guys who wanted to maintain control, who just had thought that Hillary Clinton was going to be a shoo-in and they'd be able to continue to control the deep state. They'd be able to control exactly what was happening in Washington, and then suddenly the American people had a different idea. The American people said, we're tired of this. We want this guy from Fifth Avenue who wants to run our country like a business and has no political allegiance to any of you. I mean, we're talking about using intelligence resources not to protect Americans, not to keep our American soil safe, but to target political opponents. I mean, we haven't heard this type of action since back in the Lyndon Johnson, Richard Nixon era, back when they really did target their political opponents because they didn't have the 24/7 cable news industry watching over them. They didn't have the internet to watch over them. But what we're seeing here is not just bad judgment on the Obama's fault. It's a fundamental breakdown of Democrat accountability. Now, some in the media are already trying to brush it off. Again, they're saying it's old news. They'll say it's political. They're saying, let's just take a step back. You know, don't overreact. Well, let's take a step back. This isn't coming from a Trump campaign official. This is the current director of national intelligence. Yes, a Trump appointee, but a former Democrat congresswoman and Democrat presidential candidate now serving in a nonpartisan national security role. She's not doing this for attention. She's doing it because she sees a real threat to the rule of law, and she wants to prevent this from happening in the future. Now, President Trump is not just ignoring it. He posted a video responding to the revelations, highlighting the hypocrisy of people like Obama and Hillary Clinton, who've spent years saying no one is above the law. The message, it's true, and let's prove it. Yes, no one is above the law. Not even you. Not even the Obamas, and certainly not the Clintons. And it's not just Tulsi Gabbard raising the alarm either. Senator Chuck Grassley, one of the most senior respected Republicans in the Senate, is preparing to declassify key parts of a 2018 DOJ Inspector General report, particularly its appendix related to the Clinton email investigation. Remember that? Remember, Clinton used a private email server to store classified government documents while serving as Secretary of State? It was this email server in the basement of her home. The FBI publicly admitted she was extremely careless, but chose not to prosecute. Meanwhile, years later, Trump had his home raided over document storage. The double standard here is just impossible to ignore. Senator Grassley's move suggests that Republicans aren't letting this go, and nor should they. They shouldn't just pretend that nothing happened and let's move on. This is about setting a precedent, because if federal officials can interfere with elections and use national intelligence to go after their rivals with no consequences, then that's not a free country anymore. That's something else. And that's something that we all should be fearful of. We cannot just ignore it. And let's be honest, a lot of this starts with the failure to hold anyone accountable in 2016. People sat around, they saw what happened, and they're thinking, well, gosh, you can do that. You can get away with it. There's no accountability, no consequences. So what would keep us from doing it again in the future? Had the Clinton investigation been handled seriously, had the FBI and the Department of Justice kept politics out of their work, we may not be here today. But when one side gets a pass and the other gets persecuted, it erodes trust in everything. People just don't trust the government anymore. People don't trust our main law enforcement agency, Department of Justice. We don't have faith in the FBI anymore. We view them as political when they should never be political. But hey, they're the ones, and again, not the rank and file agents, but the leadership of the Department of Justice under Barack Obama, under Joe Biden, has proven that they use this for political purposes. It's real simple here. The American people deserve answers. They deserve transparency, and they deserve a government that's held to the same standard that we are, that you and I are. This isn't about relitigating the 2016 election. It's about protecting the integrity of the next one and everyone after that. So yes, Tulsi Gabbard's referral to the Department of Justice should be taken seriously, not because it's politically convenient, but because we need to know that the people in power aren't above the law, aren't above the Constitution. No more selective enforcement, no more stonewalling. If laws were broken, it's time to face the consequences, no matter how high up it goes, even if it leads us directly to the former president of the United States, Barack Obama. Because trust in our institutions doesn't come from press conferences or slogans. It comes from accountability. Let's see if the DOJ is up to the task and if they stay on point. And speaking of accountability, President Donald Trump is going to try to hold the Wall Street Journal accountable over its coverage of his connection to Jeffrey Epstein. It's landed in the courtroom of Darren Gale. Now, the president told us last week that he was going to sue the Wall Street Journal and Fox News for Rupert Murdoch specifically for allowing this to be published, the so-called letter that he had written to Jeffrey Epstein. Well, he did it. It was assigned a judge yesterday. Darren Gales. Gales is a 2014 appointee of Barack Obama. Had another brush with a litigious Trump in 2023 when the then former president sought to punish his one-time lawyer and fixer Michael Cohen. That if you recognize that name, that's possibly why. Now, on the surface, this may look like bad news for Donald Trump. That maybe he drew the wrong judge. But when you dig a little deeper, let's give him a chance. His this lawsuit against the Wall Street Journal and Rupert Murdoch, he's asking for $20 billion. The president says the newspaper defamed him by reporting last week that he had sent Epstein a suggestive birthday card more than 2 decades ago. But this lawyer, Gales, a George Washington University law graduate who's made history as the first openly gay black man appointed to a federal bench, some people are saying, give him a chance. He's known to be fair. He's known to apply the rule of law in every instance, and he's known to be not political at all. We'll see, because we're going to follow this closely. This could be a huge, huge decision of the court if, in fact, Trump once again holds a big media outlet responsible for their actions. Your comments are welcome on the Furman Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. That's 864-477-5639. Emails always welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com. Speaking of the Furman Ford text line, it's never been more important to support locally run businesses owned by people who actually live here in the upstate. Let me take a minute to talk with you about our friends at Furman Ford. If you're looking for a new vehicle, maybe a great pre-owned vehicle, one you can trust, or maybe you're looking to order that special vehicle. Either way, if you want a new one, a brand new one, or a pre-owned that you can trust, the folks at Furman Ford, they're there to help you. Their name is on the sign because their name is on the line, because every single transaction is important to them. Jim Furman, Matthew Furman. They do business the right way. When you stop by, when you give them a call, or maybe when you just send them a quick email, you're always going to have access to a member of the Furman Ford family. And by the way, they also offer great service, and you're not going to have to wait weeks and weeks to get it done. And you do not have had to purchase your vehicle at Furman Ford. Doesn't even have to be a Ford. They service all makes and models. Visit my friends at Furman Ford online at furmanford.com, furmanford.com. Representative Anna Paulina Luna, the Republican from Florida, has referred Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell to the Department of Justice for potential criminal prosecution. It seems like today's show we've talked an awful lot about people being referred to the DOJ. The DOJ is pretty busy right now, aren't they? In this case, she's alleging that he lied under oath in 2 separate instances. Representative Luna outlined her accusations in a letter to the DOJ, first obtained by Fox News yesterday, reporting that Powell committed perjury during his June 25th, 2025 testimony just a few weeks ago before the Senate Banking, Housing, and Urban Affairs Committee. The allegations focus on Mr. Powell's statements regarding the costly renovation of the Federal Reserve building. Luna claims that Powell misrepresented both the necessity and the scope of the renovation, denying the existence of lavish features that congressional investigators say are in the final plans. These include a VIP private dining room, premium marble finishes, modernized elevators, water features, and a rooftop terrace garden. This is a government building we're talking about now. Luna also accused Powell of making false statements in a letter to Office of Management and Budget Director Russell Vought, where Powell reportedly downplayed the cost escalation from $1.9 billion to $2.5 billion as minor. So we're talking about $2.5 billion of our money being used to renovate a government building, to turn it into a lavish playground of Mr. Powell. According to Luna, documentation from the Federal Reserve's final submission to the National Capital Planning Commission and Voight's original letter contradict Powell's characterization of the changes. Luna wrote, in his statement, he made several materially false claims. The actual project plans suggest the opposite of what Mr. Powell testified. Perjury, of course, a federal offense, carries penalties of up to 5 years in prison and some additional fines. Luna first hinted at the referral last week via a post on X. In response, Powell has denied all accusations and directed a formal watchdog investigation into the renovation project's cost overruns. The Federal Reserve has also published a video tour and detailed documentation on its website regarding the project. Again, I don't understand how you spend $2.5 billion renovating a government building to this degree. Adding a rooftop terrace. I guess so Jerome Powell can sit up there and smoke cigars and drink and have a nice view. I don't know. And maybe that's not fair. I don't even know if he drinks, and I don't know if he smokes cigars. Ms. Luna's referral comes amid intensifying calls, of course, from President Trump and Republicans for Powell's dismissal, despite the fact that Trump himself appointed Powell. Trump has expressed frustration over Powell's refusal to cut interest rates, though he has told reporters it is highly unlikely he would fire him before his term ends next year in 2026. Moderate Republicans and some financial experts warn that removing Powell could further destabilize financial markets. We'll see. We'll see. Now, here's the story of the day. So let me get this straight. The Democrat Party just got steamrolled in 2024 in the elections, and their big plan to fix it, they want to do an autopsy that avoids blaming the people actually responsible. Now, here's the story. According to the New York Times, the DNC is conducting a full-blown post-mortem of the Biden-Harris disaster, but instead of examining the brain, the heart, or even the spine of their failed campaigns, they're laser-focused on the fingers, super PACs, and outside money groups. Because, yeah, sure, the problem with the Biden campaign was too much money, I guess. They just raised too much money. And if you're wondering how that's going, how the whole autopsy, so to speak, is going, ask James Carville, the guy who's been around Democrat politics longer than Joe Biden's been in public office. Now, that's an exaggeration. Carville's not that old, but he's pretty old. But he's experienced. That's the important thing. And Carville's not holding back. In a Scorched Earth Times op-ed, he described his Democrat Party as constipated and a cracked-out clown car. Honestly, I think he's being kind. I'll add one more diagnosis. Diseased. The Democrats are sick. Let's look at the symptoms. You had an incumbent president with plummeting approval numbers, visible cognitive issues, and a staff hell-bent on pretending everything was just fine. Everything was going hunky-dory. Then, when reality finally broke through, they shoved Kamala Harris into the driver's seat, a woman who couldn't get a 3% in her own presidential primary 5 years ago, and called it saving democracy. And now they're wondering why voters bailed, why voters didn't buy that. The DNC doesn't want to talk about whether Biden should have even run in the first place, or whether he shouldn't have dropped out sooner, maybe, or whether Kamala was the right pick to carry the torch. Instead, they're pointing fingers at super PACs like Future Forward, which, to be fair, did light over $500 million on fire trying to prop up two wildly unpopular candidates. Yes, but let's be honest. The PACs weren't the ones who put Biden back on the debate stage looking like he just wandered off the set of Night of the Living Dead. And now that we know that he was potentially taking Ambien, I don't think the PACs gave Joe Biden the prescription of Ambien either. And they weren't the ones who decided Kamala Harris, with her crackling non-answers and invisible charisma, was going to somehow rally America. Surely anybody would have known that Kamala Harris wasn't a good candidate, that the American people did not care for Kamala Harris. They had 4 years almost to know that they just don't like the woman. So here's what the DNC says officially. And I swear I'm not making this up, I promise. According to their spokesperson, Rosemary Bogelin, this isn't a finger-pointing exercise, she says, but rather an effort to develop an actionable playbook to win. Because nothing screams action like ignoring the two people who lost, right? And then there's Jane Cleave, head of the Nebraska Democrat Party, who says, and I quote, "We're not interested in second-guessing campaign tactics or decisions of campaign operatives." I mean, really, you can't make this up. The campaign, Kamala Harris's campaign, is who lost the race. So why wouldn't you want to do a deep dive into her campaign? So, what are they interested in? What are they going to actually look at in this autopsy? Well, figuring out which voters showed up for which party and pretending that if they had just reimagined the messaging a little, everything will be fine in 2026. And hey, I hope they stay on that path. I hope they do exactly in 2026 what they did in 2024. Now, there's no mention of Biden's mental decline. They don't want to bring that up. No reflection on the Harris campaign's absolute flop of a strategy. Just some vague talk about structural changes and how clear-eyed they are. I mean, please, give me a break. This is the equivalent of a doctor refusing to treat a patient's cancer because he's too busy checking the guy's cholesterol, right? And let's be real. The reason they're not looking inward is because they don't want the answers. They don't want to know. They don't want to admit it. They don't want to talk about the cover-up of Biden's condition or how long the White House tried to gaslight the country into thinking a man who forgot what year it was could run the country for another 4 years. They don't want to talk about any of that. They definitely don't want to talk about Kamala Harris because they know, everyone knows, she was a backup plan that they were stuck with, not someone the base actually believed in. They didn't want a Harris coronation. They wanted a real primary, and when they didn't get it, the Democrat base tuned out. They decided they'd go someplace else. What's happening here is arrogance, pure, uncut arrogance, the kind that says, we don't need to admit mistakes, we just need to spend smarter next time. Raise more money, spend it better. And again, I hope they stay on that path, because if they do, 2026 is going to be another good year for the GOP. Joining us today on our guest line, Drew McKissick, chairman of the South Carolina Republican Party. Welcome. How are you?
I'm doing well, ready for hot weather. How are you?
I am ready as well. And look, I don't think we have a choice with the hot weather, so we'll just have to take
right.
it. Yeah. So speaking of hot weather, supposedly crime increases some in the heat of the summer. We've seen a rash of illegals involved in various crimes, one of which in New York City. Now, the Democrats pretend they don't understand what all the fuss is about concerning illegals being in our country to roam around freely. Yet an illegal is being accused of almost killing an off-duty CBP officer in New York in an attempted robbery. We've now learned that he had a kidnapping warrant, a history of assault, was already violating terms of previous arrests. He'd been detained over 4 times and released under the Biden administration's more lenient enforcement approach. He's allowed to remain in our country, free to travel from state to state, and accumulate more charges, ultimately endangering American lives. Do you think they're ever going to understand why we do not want these people in our country?
Well, no, because it's their basic philosophy is one built around, borders are not, they're not important. They're not what we think of in terms of borders. They have different priorities when it comes to crime. They have different priorities when it comes to enforcement. They have, or say priorities might not even be the right word, just ridiculous ideas about what works in terms of enforcement. Also in terms of prison and so forth. And that you've seen George Soros and his crew go around the country for the last, several election cycles, spending tens and tens of millions of dollars to influence the election of district attorneys in different places around the country. We've seen then the policies that those radical liberal district attorneys have carried forward in terms of their philosophy of enforcement or lack thereof. And we've seen what they did in places like New York when it came to the legal changes they made on bail and, making it the no cash bail and making it easier for these guys to get right back out on the street. And then, we'll get surprised when people point out the results of those policies. And the question for those areas, and voters in those areas, is how long do they put up with it? I mean, is it a situation where they all think that way and they're just happy to let people run roughshod through their communities, or are there enough voters left who haven't left those areas yet, or in most cases red states, to actually influence an election and bring some sanity back to how the laws are enforced in those areas? And that's a good question. You've seen what just happened in New York City with the primary that they had there, where they basically have nominated someone who, quite frankly, he's a Marxist. Let's just call it what it is. The man is a Marxist. He is the Democrats' candidate for mayor in New York City, the biggest city in America, which, quite frankly, is probably going to put, if he's elected, you're probably going to see the stock exchange begin to make moves to escape New York City before it's all over with. So there's a result when you adopt these types of policies, and it impacts the community, but does the community have enough sense to push back on it? That's a real question.
Yeah, well, and some of these cities, unfortunately, do not appear to have enough sense to push back. I mean, they're going the extra step and actually protecting these folks. And you mentioned New York City, of course. They're considered a sanctuary city. I mean, they want to protect it. They're putting them up in hotels. So, and speaking of New York City, on our guest line today, Chairman of the South Carolina Republican Party, Drew McKissick. Speaking of New York, did you see that Andrew Cuomo is saying that if this young man, Mamdani, were to win, that Cuomo says he's going to move to Florida? I'm afraid he just helped elect this guy, because if people know he'll leave New York if he loses, they may elect this guy just to get rid of a Cuomo.
That's a legitimate point.
Yes.
I mean, it tells you something about how far that party has gone, quite frankly, and how far it's fallen. And when you look at New York City, particularly New York State, but definitely New York City, and you look at what's left. It's kind of like San Francisco and places in California that basically the middle class has been hollowed out. And those people who have means have basically escaped. I mean, so you're left with the people on the bottom of the economic ladder, the people on the very top, the folks in the middle who can afford to leave have left and gone to other places and taken their common sense with them, and in many cases their money with them. And you have people, in many cases the uber rich, who have decided, well, I'm going to establish residence in Florida. Wow, no income tax, and so it's starving New York City of more and more resources that they could spend either wisely or foolishly. But the point is they're being starved of resources. And at some point, there's what's left of the Democrat Party in places like that are going to begin to fight amongst themselves for what resources are left. That's going to be the thing to watch for, because basically the Democrat Party is a collection of grievance groups, right? So, when resources start to get starved, they begin to fight amongst themselves over the scraps. And I think that's the kind of thing you can begin to look to see in places like New York City now.
Yep, for sure. Drew McKissick with me today, and you guys have a big event coming up soon. You know, we're seeing more of these Democrat governors coming through the state, but we have a great Republican governor coming soon as well.
We do. So Governor Glenn Youngkin of Virginia is going to be the speaker at our annual Silver Elephant Gala in Columbia on August the 9th. That's our biggest fundraiser of the year. It traces its roots back to 1967. Ronald Reagan was our very first speaker. This is the 58th annual. We expect close to 1,000 folks to join us here in Columbia and hear from Governor Youngkin. And, you know, this is a man who's been successful advocating conservative policies in a purple state, which is what Virginia is. And, you know, that's the kind of thing, the kind of message that we need to hear here as we are reminded, as I like to remind people, not to get comfortable. We've been successful here, but that doesn't mean you won't stay successful if you don't stay hungry and you don't keep working and you don't keep communicating a good message that resonates. He's done a good job of doing that. Love to have folks join us. They can go to scgop.com and hit the Elephant Club tab at the top of the page. Join the Elephant Club, get your seat, come join us for the dinner. We'd love to have you.
Yep, it will be a fun event. You know, I think my favorite silver elephant, and there's been some good ones over the years, but I think my favorite was when President Richard Nixon was our speaker.
Yep, that's been a while ago, though. You're dating yourself.
I know. I've been around a long time, yes. Drew McKissick, it's always a pleasure. Have a good one. We'll catch up again soon.
Yes, sir. Stay out of the heat. Take care.
Yes. That's it for today's edition of Just the Truth. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss Studios. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. If you haven't joined my mailing list yet, visit my website, joeyhudson.com. Click on the Connect with Joey button so that you can receive our emails and the most up-to-date news. Also, join me on my YouTube channel. Be sure and like, comment, and subscribe. Just search for Joey Hudson. As always, thanks for spending a few minutes of your day with me. Do me a favor and forward this episode to a few friends. Just click on the share button and send to your contacts. We need to build an army of conservatives to win our country back, and we can do that by continuing to share the truth with our friends and family. Keep those comments coming via the Furman Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. Email to joey@joeyhudson.com, and I love your messages on the MyPillow message line. Again, that's 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Be sure and take advantage of the MyPillow special, just $14.88 on the standard MyPillows when you use promo code Joey. Order online at mypillow.com or call 800-893-4053. We're back again tomorrow and hope you'll plan to join us. Until then, remember, God's got this. He's still in control.